Hi everyone, Aaron here for Zollotech, and the iPhone 15 is just under a week away from being shown at the upcoming Apple event called Wonderlust. This takes place on September 12th at 10 a.m. Pacific Time or 1 p.m. Eastern. You'll be able to watch it. Now at this event, we expect the iPhone 15, new Apple Watches, maybe some updates to AirPods and more. And this time around, we've heard a lot about iPhone 15 and 15 Pro models. However, we seem to have the final colors here. So I thought we'd go over these. We'll go over them one by one, what to expect with the iPhone 15. But if you want to jump to any specific part in this video to jump right to what you care about, be sure to check out the chapters in the description. We'll also compare these to all the different colors that we currently have that are close to these colors that I have on hand. Let's start with the non-Pro models. Now, just like last year, we're going to have 4 different models. We're expected to have an iPhone 15, 15 Plus, 15 Pro, and 15 Pro Max. They could instead call the 15 Pro Max the 15 Ultra. What we're expecting for the regular models is an aluminum frame, or aluminium depending on where you're from, that's redesigned that curves over the edge. You can kind of see that here. It feels much better when you're holding on to it, and I've shown some of these model units before where these are not real phones. They're just sort of representative of what to expect. So they don't function in any way, but they look exactly like we expect the iPhone 15 to look. Now we expect aluminum, like I said. Many have said these will have a matte back on them. However, none of these models seem to have the matte back on them, so we're not really sure. We're also expecting a dynamic island on the front. So if I take this off, you'll see that this one actually sort of shows a notch that would have been here, but it's not really what we're seeing. So we're expecting a dynamic island here on all of the models. We're also expecting USB-C. And the bottom actually shows a USB-C port. You can fit a USB-C cable directly in here, which is the same as Thunderbolt. However, we're expecting maybe only the Pro models to have Thunderbolt itself. So as you can see, these look very familiar compared to what we currently have, with the exception of the rounded corners. We expect them to use an A16 Bionic and possibly have larger batteries. The batteries in the iPhone 15 are expected to be around 3,877 milliamp hours, or an 18% increase. This is according to guesses by 9to5Mac, or maybe some sources they have. And also the Plus model is expected to be bumped up 13% to 4,912 milliamp hour batteries. Now, as you can see, all the different colors here. We have white, pink, a blue that's a little bit lighter, black, and then we have sort of a greenish yellow color. This is really hard to kind of place as far as green. It's very, very mild. And to first compare this to what we had before, here's an iPhone 12 mini. So this gives you an idea of what green looks like. I have the color on the camera calibrated to as accurate as I can get it. This is what the green looks like. Hopefully you have one nearby and it gives you an idea of what they look like. So in general, they should look it looks almost like a yellowish green depending on what you place it near. Again, next to another green iPhone. With the iPhone 11, we had a different green shade. So here's some potential greenish shades that we've had before compared to what we currently have with maybe the iPhone 15. Of course, black is going to look pretty similar to what we've had before. They could call it midnight. We don't really know. And this blue is a very light pastel blue. And compared with the current iPhone 14 side by side, this gives you an idea how light it is. So very, very light overall. And one thing I didn't show you before is the side. So again, a matte side on both of them, sort of a greenish blue on both of these devices. So they both have sort of screen protectors on them. They're just placed on here. Let me remove them. Gives a better look of it overall. Remove this one, and this gives you an idea of what they look like. So these are 2 of the newest colors, and then of course we have pink. Now we've had pink before. I don't have a pink iPhone on hand to kind of compare it with, but this looks like a very familiar pink we've had before. So again, these should be the 3 new colors that we have this year. Very pastel, very light, and the overall frame looks pretty good. I think a lot of people will like these colors. It looks great, and of course we'll gain that USB-C port. We'll also gain upgraded cameras. So we should have upgraded cameras. You can see they look a little bit larger than what we currently have, if they're accurate. So placed side by side, we could have some different sensors, maybe some different lenses. And one thing that's odd on these models is the little flash looks a little different. The True Tone flash, or maybe it's a dual tone flash, something different could be taking place with the flash this year. But the microphone, everything else looks very, very familiar. Also, one thing to note on the side, these do have a representation of the silent switch. So many people expect on the non-Pro models this basically to be the same. On the Pro models, this could be a programmable button. We'll take a closer look at that in just a moment. But overall, very light blue, very pastel colors. Now let's take a look at the Pro models. And here are the Pro models. This is a representation of what we think the Pro models will look like. And again, we have 4 different colors, just like we currently do this year. We're expecting a few different things as far as the overall design. We're expecting it to curve around the edges, just like I said before, where it curves from the side over to the glass. This feels much better in the hand, more similar to what we had with the iPhone 11, but not quite as squared off as the iPhone 12, somewhere in between, so it's very comfortable to hold. We're also expecting Apple to get rid of stainless steel and instead replace it with titanium. Now, many expect this to be sort of a matte finish instead of a glossy finish with titanium, as it would be anodized. We also expect a slightly different layout on the side where we would have an action button, as I mentioned before. So you press this button, you could program it similar to what you have on the Apple Watch Ultra. So you could program this button to whatever you'd like or whatever Apple allows. Some models are said to still have the SIM card tray, so we could have that. However, probably North American models and others won't have it. Again, we'll have USB-C. We'll have a faster processor inside, the A17 or A17 Bionic, we don't know the actual name, and also upgraded batteries. Hopefully upgraded batteries, again, according to 9to5Mac and what they're guessing, 3,650 milliamp hours on the 15 Pro, that's a 14% increase, and 4,852 milliamp hours on the Pro Max, or a 12% increase. We're also expecting a price bump, and also upgraded cameras with maybe some new lenses, not necessarily sensors. In the Pro Max model, we could have a periscope zoom camera. Now, according to the latest rumors and leaks online, these colors have similar names for some and some new names as well. So what we would have is silver, then we'd also have a new Titan gray, we also have another new color called dark blue, and then maybe midnight or space black. Now, I'll show you different colors up close next to these that we currently have, just like this space black iPhone 14 Pro Max. The most representative of this color, maybe the closest, is one of these 2 colors. Now, they may not use the same names at all. We don't really know. And the red color is not seemingly going to be here, as many people have said you can't anodize titanium in red. So if it is a titanium frame, they wouldn't be able to match it in red. Maybe they will be able to do it later on and introduce product red later. But so far, we haven't seen that. Now, as far as the color, again, this is space black next to these colors to give you a better idea. The other color is more of a dark blue. So these 3 colors are the newer colors, with the exception of maybe one of these being closer to space black. Also, if I bring in another one here, so we'll bring in iPhone 12 Pro Max, where we have Pacific Blue. So bringing these next to these colors, again, I don't think anyone would be unhappy getting any of these colors. Just pick one if you can get your hands on one, and then get whatever one you have. Most people will put a case on it anyway. But again, here's Pacific Blue, and then here's Sierra Blue. So all of the 3 different colors, they're very, very close to one another. And maybe one of the easier ways to tell the difference is the sides of these, or the frames, where of course you have silver, then you have sort of a space black, maybe space black here, and a dark blue. It's very hard to tell the difference, and I'm in very bright light right now. So I can see the difference between the colors, but what they're going to call them, we don't know, as they sort of color shift like we currently have, and we've seen before. So again, that's a comparison between all of them. When it comes to the overall size of the phone, you can see here's the 14 Pro on the left in deep purple. So we have what would be maybe the deep blue or dark blue color. You can see side by side, they're very, very similar. We expect the Pro Max model to have a slightly different camera layout, but in general, everything looks very familiar with the exception of the USB-C port, of course, on the bottom. As you can see here, it's just a little bit larger port. And then again on the side where we have the action button instead of the silent switch. So a little bit different there. And again, we don't know if this is going to be glossy or not, and we'll have the SIM card tray in some markets, it would seem. So I would love to see that back in the US, but it doesn't look like that's going to return anytime soon. Also, side by side, maybe this will give you a better understanding of the curvature around the outside edge. Not so much curved on the back, but on the front edge where it meets the glass, it's definitely a more subtle curve. So it looks and feels a little bit better, but the glass itself is not curved. So that's something that just is much, much nicer, at least to hold in your hand. So again, here's all the colors side by side to give you a good representation of what they may look like. These may not be 100% the same as the final release, and typically they're off a few shades or something like that, but they should be very representative of what to expect as far as the iPhone 15 models go. Now, I will say with the new Pro models, I really like them, and it's hard to actually convey on camera what they actually feel like to hang on to because they're more curved, but it's a very subtle curve around the outside edge, but definitely much more comfortable to hold, and I think they look great. All of them look like Pro models that you would expect. Some people have said, why aren't they colorful on the Pro models? And I think they keep those muted tones that are more Pro. Personally, I'd like to see them just come out with 2 colors a year and maybe change those back and forth for the Pro and Pro Max. But if you're planning to pick up an iPhone 15 or 15 Pro, let me know in the comments below, and which one out of these colors would you choose? I'd love to hear from you there. If you haven't subscribed already though, please subscribe, and if you enjoyed the video, please give it a like. As always, thanks for watching. This is Aaron. I'll see you next time.